Greetings, dear ones. I'm Cryon of Magnetic Service. I know who's here. And this is a statement of honor. Dear ones, if this is the first time you've been in a live channel, you might notice how quickly my partner went into this energy. And that is because I am always there. Just like anything that you have which is spiritual, it doesn't come and go. It doesn't go there when you report to a building and leave later. It's always with you. In these days to come, there will be many impressions, many things that you are seeing. Some things you want to know about, some things you question, some things you honor, some things that you know are just beyond beautiful. A culture of art, of worship, a culture of spirituality, a heavy akash, meaning that lifetime after lifetime is Italian. And it builds and builds into something spectacular over time. But I want to share a story. And it's a common story to you, but you've never heard me share this story, not like this one. Because this particular story is going to be in your face for days. And I want to give you a story, a grand story, a compassionate story about a man, a prophet, a master who came to this planet, and something I've never told, not this way. And you might find it unexpected the way I'm going to tell it. And some of the things that I may say. I am not here to tear away anyone's faith. I am not here to make you question what you think. I am here to love humanity and tell a great, great story. The story of Jesus, the man. You know it was prophesied that a master was coming, don't you? That's real. How much of what you hear is mythology and how much actually happened? And the answer is all of it happened. The mythology part is what men made of it in addition to what happened. Oh, but what happened? A master was on his way to the planet. A master with the potential of changing the earth. And he did. Long before he arrived, the prophecies were there. It was coming. He was coming. And he came. Let's start the story. Is the manger scene accurate? Dear ones, over time, many mythologies and realities compress and expand so that they're easily told. But I want to tell you that although it didn't happen all at once and it didn't happen where they said it happened, indeed, the child was visited by royalty. The child was visited by those who follow the stars. The child was visited by 3 wise astrologers and more. Not all at once, but over time. Because of the prophecies, to make sure it was real, to make sure it was the one. And it was the one. This is true. And if you take a look at why the man came, he came to change a paradigm. Now here's where it gets good. The man is a Jew. And in the times where he was, in what is now Israel, and the surrounding areas is where this all took place. All of his life, a Jew. But as he started to grow up, he started to feel and know who he was. Very quickly leaving home, stories you haven't really heard. This man was here to change something, a paradigm. And he objected to the rules of a judgmental God. A judgmental God who didn't care. A judgmental God who just follow the rules, follow the rules. That's what he saw in the culture he was born in. His heritage and his lineage he rejected. He started to make waves. He joined groups. Some say he was an Essene. But he had the wisdom of a holy man, of a priest. And he could recite things. He knew all about the history. He knew things at a very young age no one really knows at that young. He was seen as someone very, very special, even when he was part of the groups that were split-offs and rebels. He was even called in certain circles the evil priest, because he was a priest. It didn't take long, dear ones, for him to make the first statements of why he was there. And I want you to listen to this, because this was all absolutely accurate and true. To this day, accurate and true. Listen. He says, I'm here to change the shifts of the past. I'm here to create a new paradigm of a living, loving God. To change the dispensation of God fearing as a father who is going to punish you with books and rules to something which is so grand. A new paradigm, a new dispensation, the dispensation of love. That God loves you like a son. In fact, so much so, you all can be called the sons of God. That's how much love there is. God knows your name. God loves you beyond measure. God knows who you are. It's not an uncaring God that'll punish and destroy. It's not a God of the past. It's not a God of law anymore. It's a God of love. And that was the message, and he started teaching it and preaching it. And more listened. And it goes on. Make no mistake the words he said. He said, I am the one. I am the only one, the scheduled one, to bring you this information. And no one is going to know about it unless it's through me. Because I am the prophesied one, the scheduled one, to bring this news. And the news is that God is love. And wherever he went, he said, remember, this is the way of it. This is the truth of it. This is your life. And I am the only one that can give it to you. I am the scheduled one that can give it to you. Listen to me, he said. And on and on. He showed humanity what humanity could do, and the power in there of even changing physics and altering things and healing things. He says, this is what a human can do with the love of God inside. No wonder they loved him. And he made waves. A lot of waves. You know, there is a lot of information that was written about this beautiful man that still is unrevealed. Unrevealed to the planet as a whole. Beautiful it is. Much of it was uncovered in Qumran. Not necessarily about the man, but about the dispensation of law, about the belief of the Jews, and the story of the man. But that's not all. There's been a lot of writing through the years, even after he was gone, through the years by those who loved him, who wrote the scriptures, but also the ones who were with him. There was another discovery in Egypt, in Nag Hammadi, of the actual writings of his disciples. The writings of John, the writings of Thomas, all there. What was it like? What did he mean? What did he really do? By the way, those writings have not been revealed in Scripture. You have to go find them. There's a lot that has been written. It is so amazing about this man. And then it happened. Of course, he knew his time was limited. He did. He knew it because he was scheduled as a master of this planet, and he knew who he was. Now, before you say, well, that's an unusual thing, how could that happen? I'd like to tell you that if you look at history, and you take a look at even the lineage of Buddha, they know who they are when they arrive. Their Akash is looked at and tested. This is no different, dear ones, to other masters, and there have been many on the earth. This man knew why he was here. He knew he wouldn't be here long to teach, and he wasn't. You all have the story. You all think you know what happened. Let us just say this. They terminated his teaching. And they put him on the wood. That's what you're going to see here in Italy. He's hanging on the wood. The Jews, they didn't want any part of him. He was too rebellious. He was a wicked priest, an evil priest. He was not really honoring the Jews. And the conquerors of the day, the Romans, the Italians, they put him on the wood. Too much trouble. He was stirring things up. And to make it even grander from their standpoint, they didn't tie him to the wood like they did those around him. They nailed him to it. As if to say, don't make waves. Look here. This is what happens when you make waves. Well, the waves that he made last to this day. And if you could hear him talk, you would hear him say the same thing right now. Listen, God is love. The Creator who gave you what you have inside loves you and knows your name like a son, like a daughter. That's the message of the man. He was taken down and put in a tomb. Now, it's very interesting, dear ones. Don't make anything more of this than this. The protocol of why they removed him had nothing to do with his state of being. It's against the law in Jerusalem to crucify after sundown. That law still exists. And when sundown came, they took him off and put him in the tomb. There were those who were allowed to accompany them and accompany him to the tomb and leave him as they rolled a stone in place. And that is accurate and that is true. And his teaching stopped there. Now, as the story goes, a few days later, they saw the tomb was open. And a little after that, they saw he was alive. He had returned majestically. You know, a God-man would do that. And that's what he became. Now, here's what I want to tell you. Let's look at the reactions and what happens today. What was the reactions there of the Jews? Happy to be rid of him. Even to this day, not acknowledging what really took place of one of their own. And then you have those who have built his church. Look at the irony of the Romans who killed him and where the Vatican is, who built him up. The same culture started in such a beautiful spiritual way to honor him. Now, through the ages, things changed, but I'm not going to talk about that. You're going to see it. But let's talk about what humans have done with the man. What they've decided he was here for, the man. for many, many years, the depiction of everything he did and everything he taught, the depiction, the statue, the symbol, he's on the wood dying. That became untenable a little later. And there were so many protesting that they said, you keep putting him on the wood like he's always suffering and he's always there, but he's alive. So the ones who protested have the wood shown without the man suffering. Today there are over 400 sects of Christianity, all believing a certain way, still trying to figure out what he really meant and what he really said. And the only thing they have in common is that they love him. Because he's the one who gave them the idea, the dispensation of love, something you have today. Let me give you something that's interesting, dear ones. Something you're going to see. This man, this Jesus, the one who said, you're only going to find out the way and the truth and all that is your life if you listen to me, because God is love. He's not judgmental. He doesn't have rules. And look at where it has become today. Because Christianity became a judgmental God with rules. And dear ones, that is what humanity has done. You're going to see it in so many places, accompanied by some of the greatest works of art in the world. But there's something else happening even in the church today. They're starting to move away from a judgmental God, starting to make it more like the man said, starting to actually understand that the purpose of his visit was an example of the love of God instead of coming to do something. There are those who would love the man and feel they have to be saved by him or suffer a little in order to be like him. And then there are those who know something different because he's alive. And they look at him and say, I love you and I don't even have a prophet. And everything in this great country centers around that occurrence. Dear ones, as you go forth in these days, take a look. With the correct story in front of you, a story of love, you get to see what the ages have done with it. You get to see the rebels within the church. You get to see the popes that weren't so popish. And you get to see the ones who really understood and loved this man and put him in their heart and his family. And to this day continue to understand he was there as a shining example of what I teach to this day to all of you. There is a Creator who knows who you are, who loves you, and you are almost unlimited in what you can do with this, especially with the shift. And the shift we'll explain later, although we've explained it many times. There are many who need to hear it, who will listen to this later. That's the story I've never really told, not like this. There have been many who says, well, that Cryon, he's a channel. And that means that the Cryon energy in the channel has nothing whatsoever to do with that which you call religion. I'll tell you something. The masters of this planet, all of them, who taught the love of God, the oneness with all things, are my teammates. Indeed. Listen to them. For what they have to say in this new energy is starting to come forth to create a more peaceful earth, because the time is right for the message of the man to take hold. That's what I think. That's what I teach. I'm in love with humanity for these reasons. in this room, there is an energy that has been set carefully before you ever arrived. We knew you were coming. We've spoken of things that are hard to imagine to any human being who even begins to think in a linear fashion. And I want to talk a little bit more about that today. This is the final meeting, and the energy has been set. How many souls are here? What is the definition of soul? Do angels have souls? All of these could be answered in one concept. Everything from God, anything from the creative source that has sentience, intelligence, is part of one soul group. And the soul group is that which is the creative source of God. Have you ever thought of how big God is? That which you call the creative source, that which created the universe, so vast that a human can't really comprehend it, knows your name. This source is so many and yet one. And even that is so difficult for any human to conceptualize. How can it be so big yet so small? How can it be so big as to create the universe, so small as to live in your heart? How can it be so many when there's really only one consciousness of love that you feel? It seems to be a dichotomy, but only when you begin to analyze it from what you think you know. You start to look at the whole idea of a soul. It's been mentioned even this day. So I'd like to expand on it only briefly and in a way that's covered and saturated with love. This God that you think is so big it could not even ever know you is so small that God knows every single puzzle that you can have right now as you sit in the chairs or listen to this channel. What kind of consciousness could be in so many places at once, know so much? Does it ever occur to you that sometimes the synchronicities that happen are because there are so many of it, called God, that work together for all of you? Is it possible that so many things that you have asked for and desire are actually synchronicities of the coherence of the many, creating the synchronicities for all of you? Could it be that there is a circle of love, of compassion, something that you haven't really thought of before, that is beyond the one and really is for all of you? Brian, you talked in circles. How can I explain this so that it makes so much sense to you? So let me start with the one, you. There is one soul, you think, that has your name. And this one soul is the same one that has been with you every single lifetime. So over and over and over, there is the one. And yet we've all told so many things about souls. When I say we all have told, I mean the ones who channel for you and with you. The teachers all have told you that there is so much more than the one in your soul. Today my partner asked the question, if you have a higher self, is that a separate soul? And you would say, no, it's part of my soul. And yet the higher self is also present on the other side of the veil. So how can it be in two places, in two-dimensional realities at the same time? And the answer is that your higher self then becomes a bridge. So you have the part of your soul which is corporeal and also innate and also etheric, that invades, if you want to use that term, your body. It invades it because it literally wants to conquer every single cell with the beauty of God, if you let it. Every single human, however, has free choice, a duality that then works between the worlds of dark and light. That is the soul that you know, the one that is inside you, but also the one that is higher, is connected to God. That means that there is a group going on even within you. We'll call it a soul group. Now this soul group is then connected to a bigger group, which is on the other side of the veil, which you call God. Now we have said that the God that you then think of is trillions strong. Trillions of what? Well, it would be parts of God that connect to your soul. One consciousness broken into trillions of parts that all know one another, that work together. And what are those trillions of parts doing? Well, some of them are connected to other higher selves in the room, on the planet, on other planets. Now, where am I going with this? I would like to bring up a concept for the first time, and we're going to call it soul coherence. What if it was possible for your soul and your higher self, all of the connections to the other side of the veil, to become coherent? If you could draw a line of energy that would be through you and your compassion and your intent, through your higher self, all the way to the other side of the veil, perhaps touching another higher self of another soul, coming right back into their body, in this room, on the other side of the planet, or to even other planets that had humans like you. What would then happen if here in this room you decided to connect the coherence between humans? I'll tell you something. If you do that, you've created a circle. You don't even have to touch each other, because the physics of consciousness is the touchy part. And when that happens, you have something which completes the circle of soul coherence, which allows things that you didn't expect. That's the answer to synchronicities that happen, that you cannot plan, but that happen because you intend them. There's soul coherence between groups of individuals and individuals, creating what can only be called magic, because things happen that in reality shouldn't happen. Brian, what are you talking about? I'm talking about something bigger than you know. I'm talking outside of your reality. I'm talking about master numbers that have not yet been defined or completed. I'm talking about graduate consciousness that someday will know all about the physics of soul coherence and will understand for the first time that you are connected to the creative source of everything. It will blur the line between human and sacred. It will start to explain the unexplainable. And in that, there will be an understanding of the compassion of God being the compassion of humanity, and how the circle is connected in such a way that it runs through your Akash. It runs through the things that are mysterious, and they all start snapping into place, into a coherence that will make total sense. Not now, maybe, but I gave you a glimpse into what is coming. When you leave this place, many of you will think to yourselves, how can I remember all that has been talked about, all that has been presented and said? I resounded to so much of it, but when I leave the room, somehow it seems to evaporate into that which I should remember, but I don't. So I'll give you the secret of soul coherence. There were no secrets given today. All the things that were given were known. And that doesn't then evaporate into the ethers. Where did it come from? It came from the mind of God. All of it delivered to each speaker, each channeler. In a linear fashion, it was given to you to absorb. But it started with the mind of God. And if you believe in soul coherence, that still exists. All the information, everything that was discussed, couched in something called the compassion of God. When you leave here, all you have to do is rekindle that compassion. Call upon it if you wish. The coherence that is yours through your higher self into that which is on the other side of the veil, which is a complete mystery, but beautiful. You can feel it. It has all the information that was presented today exactly as it was presented. That's where it came from. And little by little, it comes right back to you. You don't have to use your brain to remember. You have to use all that is not your brain. The pineal, the intuition, the beauty, the compassion. Call it whatever you want to. Kindle that love connection with the creative source, and all these things will come back to you. Intent, if you wish. Dear Spirit, give me the things that were presented today that I resounded with as I need them. Let me resound with them as I walk day by day, because I'm connected to where they came from. I have soul coherence, you might think and say, and you'd be right. You ever wonder if two people can have what almost is one soul? They don't. They have their own pieces, and yet some of them can be so connected that they call themselves soulmates. And they don't have to be different genders. All they have to have is compassion, one for another, in any situation that would lead them to soul coherence. And that, my good friends, my dearest human soul friends, is the answer to a planet without war. Soul coherence starts to be something you expect from country to country, and the individuals in those countries feeling the compassion for one another, literally peering into each other's souls in a way that's beyond anything you can imagine today. It gives them something that they never have seen on this planet, where no human being would ever consider hurting another, because you realize you're one. It's coming. But for now, when you leave, I want you to call upon it. Call upon it for what resounded to you today that you want more of. Because it's there. It didn't go away. Everything presented stays. All you have to do is cognize the fact that you can call on it. It belongs to you because you're part of the group. Is this too mysterious? Don't analyze it. Don't intellectualize it. You can't analyze and intellectualize love. It just is. And it's more beautiful. And in so many places, you can find it anywhere. When I started channeling with my partner, one of the things that we said over and over is that you can climb into the closet and shut the door and pretend you're alone. And there'll be trillions of us in there with you. You can't get away from the love of God. This is not going to be a profound teaching channel, dear ones. This is a reflective channel. The fourth in a series in Italy, the one before the seminar series tomorrow. Tomorrow I'm going to talk to a group of Italians. Right now I'm talking to an eclectic group from all over the planet. I'll say different things to them than I will to you. For they have come to hear about the Italian way, the spiritual information that may be there, as I've given to them in so many other towns in this great country. Brian, some say, are you telling me you know what the channel is going to be? Let me put it this way. If you have a map, you know the destination, but there are many ways to get there. And the energy of the moment will determine what is said to get there. I know what the message is that I will give to the Italian people. Profound, powerful, heartfelt, beautiful. They need to hear some things that will undo perhaps what they've been told, to give them hope where some don't have it. Channeling is in the moment. It's like the painter who knows what the picture will be and chooses the colors as he or she goes. The words are the colors. They're beautiful, and they paint as the energy is there that demands the colors that get painted. This is the way channeling works. And each one of you, dear ones, each one has the ability to pull on this same source you hear right now. I'm going to ask you a question that I may ask tomorrow of those who are Italian. Number one, do you believe in reincarnation? I ask that because there are so many who do not. The spiritual system of this country does not. And there has been no teaching of it here of any significance at all. And so I ask you, and I will ask them, do you believe that perhaps you've lived before? And here's where I ask you to use your spiritual logic and reflection on who you are. The prevailing doctrine here is this: that you have a soul, and that soul goes with you, and it's eternal. And yet, it doesn't exist before you're born on the planet as a human. Therefore, there's some magic that occurs when you are born and you get a soul. And then it goes forever. I ask you, is this spiritual logic sound? Or perhaps you might add something to it, that your soul existed before you got here. That's the first step to saying, well, I'm going to enhance something that doesn't make sense. I believe the soul is eternal in both directions. In other words, you always were, and you always will be. Now, to some, that sounds blasphemous, because that means the soul is eternal just like God and always was there just like God. It isn't blasphemous when you listen to the words of the masters, the one that is worshipped here and so many others who say to you, the creation source of all things is inside every single human being. The master who is worshipped here many times referred to this, and he said, all of us are the sons of God. And he wanted to impress on every single human that there was some kind of a change happening right there where he was, a dispensation of love, and a realization that the soul that you have is God. Now I want you to turn the page for a moment, because this was not new information, not for the world at all. Hundreds of years before that master came upon this planet, responsible for all of the compassion that has built these buildings, hundreds of years, there was another master. And even before then, a culture that didn't even have a master, no prophet at all. And the basis of all of their belief was the God inside. So when you think of what the man Jesus said, he was reiterating what so many masters had said before him. The Creator is inside you. And if that is so, and if that is true, that means that your soul is connected to that Creator. And if that is so, that means there was no beginning of your soul, and there will be no end. I want to talk to the Italian people tomorrow about that very thing. I might use some of the words that I just did for you. And the reason I'm asking is I want you to reflect for a moment on who you are. You know, philosophers, many of them here, have for centuries asked the question, what is the meaning of life? Why do you exist? What is the reasoning for your being here? And I contend that is the wrong question. That the explanation of why you're here would simply be an esoteric exercise in poor logic, because you don't really know the question you should ask. You exist, dear ones, to affect that which is around you. A famous sermon given by Buddha that started the Zen movement was a sermon without words. A sermon where Buddha held a flower, and for the entire time he just looked at it. All he did was look at it. Some in the ceremony got it and understood it, but what it means is this: the flower does not question its existence or why it is there. When you take a look at the flower, what you see is what it means to you, what it does to the surroundings, how it fits in with Gaia energy. What does it give back to the earth? What does it give to other flowers? What does it give to the insects? What does it give to your eyes when you see it? The lily. Do you understand that the existence of the flower does not question itself? And when you look at it, you see that it is connected to everything. That's you. You are the flower, the biggest flower that exists on this planet. You don't question why you exist. You instead look at your existence. How do you affect those around you? How do you intersect with Earth and Gaia and the things that are beautiful? What imprint do you leave here? If you believe that your soul is eternal in both directions, dear ones, it gives credibility and logic that perhaps you've lived before, and that is the system we teach. And hundreds of years before the prophet that is worshipped here existed, that was the system on earth that was taught. That is the first intuition that is spiritual of a human system. You've lived before, and you come back. And what I want to tell you is that your life, as you sit here right now, is not obvious to you. Think about what you say and what you do and how you act and how you love. Think about the compassion that you are able to share with others, not just family, but those on the street that honk at you. Think of the compassion. Does it make a difference? Or is it just high thinking? Does it create energy? Or is it just consciousness that goes away once you think about it? This new energy you're in on this planet is beginning to show and tell things that have never been shown and told before. My partner will bring that information. But to you, here's what it means, that everything you think, every action you have, creates energy and stays here. Every lifetime you've had builds on the last until you are here, old soul, in a small gathering in Italy, listening to this message about you, leaving imprints wherever you go. Did you know that when you're alone, perhaps in your room, what you think leaves an imprint? You don't have to necessarily be with anyone else. That is how powerful consciousness is. What do you think about when you're alone? Do you count your blessings? Do you send energy to those who need it so desperately on this planet, who don't have food like you do tonight? I asked my partner to do something very difficult, and he did it in a channel. He said to Americans, do you put light in the White House for your leader or not? What is the attitude toward government? Do you put light there or not? Do you see the power and the imprint that an old soul can have? I want to tell the Italian people how old they are and what has really happened here, so they will know what they're creating. It's beautiful, and perhaps that's why so many of them are going to come. But this is for you. Is death the end, as you've been told? So many have told you this. Or is there more? I have said this, death has no sting. You have had it so many times, dear ones, but you can't remember it because it wouldn't be appropriate. Tomorrow I may give a story about what it's like to die and the frustration of somebody who has passed over and yet is still here, watching those mourn, tear out their hair, and cry for years. And they're sitting there all the time, tapping their toe, saying, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here. This is a paradigm shift from what you've been told in an old system that doesn't see a bigger picture. A beautiful system that doesn't even know itself because it never It never got there yet. This is where you're going. I've said before, you don't know what you don't know. You're becoming quantum. And a quantum human being is beginning to have perceptions beyond that which you were taught. Don't be confused. Don't just turn it away because it's not what you were taught. I ask, are you your own person or are you what you were told? Do you have the ability to even open the box and say, I listen? Let the ancients, billions of them, before you who knew about this cycle, come to you even now and say, it is the way of it. It is beautiful. It is not a judging God, but a loving one that has created a system where you can come back and continue and never make the same mistakes you made this time. Never make the same mistakes you did this time. That is because this is a new dispensation. It's going to be called the dispensation of compassion someday. And you are the ones who are going to make that difference. Who are you? Who are you to yourself? When you take your last breath, is that it? Does it really feel like that's it to you? Or do you remember that's not it? Oh, there's so much more. We'll talk about that some more if you wish. These are the things right now that give so much hope to so many of you, perhaps who have not heard it in this way before. It's a beautiful system created by a beautiful God, and you have participated in that because God is in you. That is the truth. You're going to hear more of this truth. And so many revelations are going to start to occur from that which you think is static, organized religion, where they're going to start changing certain kinds of things in order to come in line with a greater truth that they will discover. Organized religion is not going to go away, dear ones. It's going to get better. In other words, the truth will prevail. And those who love the Jesus will continue for the same reasons they always did. But they will see a bigger system that he talked about, one that encompasses a loving God and not a judgmental God. And then you'll really understand who he was and why he should be loved so much by so many on this planet. Other prophets as well will start to change what they teach, or their interpretation will be different. There'll come a day when there will be no judgment between systems. You'll be free to worship God in any way you wish, with a prophet or no prophet. And no one will sit at your feet and accuse you of anything. They will say, isn't it great that God is so big that you could see different aspects, different faces, different ways, and you'd all be correct. That's how big God is. It is human beings who put God in the box and seal it off from one another. And that, dear ones, is an old energy that's going away. Be part of it. Who are you? In reflection, when you take your last breath, I promise that you will see the face of God in a way you never saw before. And where others around you who are still here may gnash their teeth and tear their hair and cry that you're gone, you'll know better. You're not gone. And everything you'll do will be to show them that you're not gone. And that is going to change as well. It's a new paradigm, dear ones. The veil is starting to get thinner. You're going to start seeing those you've loved and lost in a different way and know they're still around. And if that's all you get from this room and this seminar and this trip, that's enough. To go away with a greater hope in your heart and a knowledge you're not alone, even the ones you think you've lost. Think about that. And you will be in the same position. Death has no sting. It is simply another dimensional shift, another energy for you before you return, greater than you left. So let me tell you where that's going. Turn the page. When my partner was very young, he went to a meeting that he'll never forget. One in Los Angeles. He was taken there by his church. 6,000 people were in a large auditorium to see one person. There was a lot of excitement about that one person because that woman was known to be a healer, but not just a healer. The one woman was known to be able to perform miracles on a regular schedule. Wheelchairs were lined up to come inside for those to be healed. The woman was so certain of what was going to happen that she'd invited doctors from the area to be on stage and check out the ones that would be healed. A hush came over the audience, and finally it was ready to begin. And after a short message that seemed to be actually incoherent, she began the process, and one by one, people would come up who were selected randomly. There was just too many to service all at once. And one by one, the audience got to experience miracles. My partner had brought with him in his car a crippled woman that the church knew all about. He knew all about, knew her name, knew her condition, and watched her actually become crippled through the years. She was one of the ones selected. She came in her wheelchair and approached the woman who had aides around her who helped facilitate the energy that was taking place. The audience of 6,000 people was so hushed you could hear a pin drop. You couldn't hear anybody breathe. But what you could hear, and it was beginning to spread around the group, was sobbing. People were crying at the beauty of what they were witnessing in that place with all those people. The woman touched the cripple, the one that my partner had brought in his car with the adults. And she got up out of the chair. He went home with her, and she wasn't crippled again. This was the miracle he saw as a young man that impressed him that God was real. But the process was a mystery. And now I'll reveal some of it to you. It's called coherence. When 6,000 people all believed that they were going to see miracles from the one who also believed they were possible, they were there over and over and over and over all day long. Children walked when they didn't walk. People saw that didn't see. And my partner never spoke about it because it was from the church and he wasn't part of that when he started channeling. But now he sees what he's part of is the humanism that created it. God inside, 6,000 people in full, 100% coherence, created the miracles together. That's what you saw. So how about you do it now? And how about you do it again in a time when there's so much light and the few can do it together? And the miracles will be here. How about the miracle here today? How about 3 of them here today? How about all of them here today? When you become so coherent of expectation of what is possible, that everyone leaves healed, that's where it's going. And someday there will be meetings just for that reason. For those that are not quite on board with the coherence of a multidimensional God, will come and the group in coherence will facilitate a healing. And it's all done with consciousness. Not one bit of chemistry is involved. No pills, nothing. All it takes is 100% coherence of those who know how it works. It took 6,000 believers who were sobbing with the reality of what they saw. That was them cognizing that which was taking place. And all of them, unless they were asleep, all of them left that building knowing God is real and there's something more here than just human beings. That's the kind of belief it's going to take. Without the sobbing. You know it before you get there. You expect it. And it's not going to be with one healer. It's going to happen in a togetherness of cognization. In a system you haven't even seen yet. A system of healing that groups will do with groups. You'll be able to do it in long distance. It's going to sweep the planet when it starts. It's going to turn everything upside down with everything you've been told is God. And it will accelerate a beautiful system. It will not eliminate systems, dear ones. It's going to enhance them. Do you hear that? It's a win-win for religion. For religion is truly on board with the love of God. And all they will do is to then work it into what they already believe and enhance it and see that it's available for all the other religions. You'll have them meld together in cooperation. There'll be a coherence of love. And the various systems of religion will not necessarily be dissolved into one. They simply will understand that each one serves the same purpose on the planet of awareness of the beauty of the love of God. They can keep much of what they believe. They simply rearrange it in a way that is beautiful. It enhances it, doesn't tear it down, doesn't eliminate it. This is the maturity and the wisdom of what's coming. Different than you think. Because of the coherence that you saw today on the screen that is possible even with one human being. This is where it begins. The story is real. My partner didn't expect it ever to be told. Not like this. But when you start looking at where coherence is going and the study and the science of it and what is possible with humanity, I had to tell you what's possible with humanity. I've seen it before. Other worlds have gone through it. And it's not going to be quick. But I just gave you a sneak peek today of what is possible with consciousness and what may be next for you if you choose that with free choice of each of the human hearts in the room. Why not now? What are you going to do with the information? And is it valid? That's the basic choice you have. Do you leave, have a nice meal, and forget it? Or do you leave differently than you came, so differently, that you will someday point to this meeting and this is where I realized it. This is where it made sense. This is where I took the hand of the God inside that I really didn't understand was there. You'll remember it all your life if that's you. It's a good day for coherence. And so it is.